Mama Bisi, why did you tell the whole compound my husband came home at 2 a.m.? I didn't tell the whole compound. Everybody knows. I only told Sister Comfort. Sister Comfort told everyone else. That's not my department. I supply the jest, I don't distribute it. One day, your mouth will land you in hot soup. Until then, do you know why Mama Janet has been hiding since yesterday? Brother Emeka, did you know Mama Janet chased their husband out with a mop yesterday?
Mama Bisi, you've started again.
Started what?
Gossiping. Are you not tired of carrying everybody's matter on your head?
It's not gossip. I'm keeping the compound informed.
One day, you'll announce the wrong person's business.
Before that day comes, come closer. The second part is even sweeter. Why is everywhere so quiet this morning? Is nobody fighting? Nobody caught a cheating husband? No mother-in-law arrived uninvited? What kind of useless morning is this? Since I woke up, not one scandal. My breakfast is refusing to digest. Somebody should do something. This compound is becoming too peaceful.
Mama Bisi should have been careful what she wished for, because before that day was over, Adeyemi Villa was about to hand her more scandal than she could handle, and this time it would land right on her own front door. If you don't subscribe now, you'll meet the twist unprepared, so tap that button, sit back, and let's step into Adeyemi Villa. Adeyemi Villa was a small compound of 6 flats, squeezed together like books on a shelf. But the amount of gossip that came out of that place could fill an entire radio station for a whole year. And at the center of it all, like the sun everything else revolved around, was one woman, Mama Bisi. Mama Bisi was not lazy. In fact, she was one of the most disciplined women in Lagos. Disciplined about waking up before 5 in the morning, not to pray, not to sweep, but to set up her plastic chair by her window so she could catch the very first movement of the day. If a tenant's husband came home at midnight smelling of a perfume that wasn't his wife's, Mama Bisi knew before sunrise. If a landlord threatened to lock someone's door for unpaid rent, Mama Bisi had already told 4 other flats before the landlord finished writing the notice. She called herself many respectable things. "I am the community secretary," she would say, straightening her wrapper like a woman about to receive an award. "I am the information officer for this compound. What do they call it in England? Public relations. That is what I do." Everyone else in Adeyemi Villa called her something simpler. The radio that never sleeps. Because Mama Bisi never needed electricity, fuel, or Wi-Fi to keep broadcasting. She ran purely on enthusiasm and other people's business. Her favorite spot was directly under the mango tree beside the compound tap, a location she had chosen with a precision like a market woman selecting the best stall. From there, she could see anyone entering, anyone leaving, and anyone trying to sneak past with a bag they didn't want questions about. "Good morning, Mama Bisi," Auntie Comfort greeted her one Saturday morning, dragging her plastic bucket toward the tap. "Come here for a moment, Comfort," Mama Bisi said, patting the space beside her stool as though inviting royalty to sit. "Have you heard the latest?" "What is it this time?" Auntie Comfort asked, though her whole body was already leaning in, because everyone in that compound knew that whatever Mama Bisi was about to say would be the highlight of the entire week. "It's about Sister Nkem's husband," Mama Bisi whispered, glancing left and right like a spy in a movie. "Someone saw him at a hotel in Ikeja, holding another woman's hand like they were old classmates." "No, you are joking." "I'm not joking, Comfort. My eyes don't play tricks. I saw it myself, or rather, my cousin saw it, and my cousin's eyes are as good as my own." That last part, "my cousin's eyes are as good as my own," was the loophole Mama Bisi always used. She rarely saw anything herself. She heard it from someone who heard it from someone else who probably imagined half of it. But by the time the story passed through Mama Bisi's mouth, it came out polished, dramatic, and complete. She had, over the years, developed an entire delivery system for her stories. There was the morning bulletin, delivered by the tap before anyone had brushed their teeth. There was the afternoon update, delivered during rest time when everyone pretended to nap but really just wanted more information. And there was the grand finale, reserved for special occasions, birthdays, parties, or emergency compound meetings, where she would drop her juiciest story in front of the widest possible audience for maximum effect. Mama Bisi was proud of her reputation. painfully proud. When people begged her to mind her own business and focus on her own life, she would simply laugh and say, "God has blessed me with sharp ears and a sharp mouth. This is not gossip. I am simply providing a service to this community." Everyone knew that was far from the truth, but arguing with Mama Bisi about her own gossiping was like trying to convince a fish that water was wet, pointless and exhausting. Mama Bisi's talent was not limited to collecting stories. She had also mastered the art of delivering them for maximum effect. She had a specific voice for every occasion. When a story was scandalous, her voice would drop to a near whisper, forcing listeners to lean in until their foreheads nearly touched hers. When a story was tragic, she would clutch her chest and shake her head slowly, drawing out the sympathy before finally revealing the details. And when a story was simply ridiculous, like someone buying a fake designer bag and calling it original from Dubai, she would burst into laughter halfway through, unable to hold it in, which only made everyone else laugh before they even understood what was funny. There was the time she told the whole compound that the new tenant in flat 4 was secretly involved in something disreputable simply because the woman had received flowers from a male visitor twice in 1 month. It turned out the visitor was her brother, celebrating her promotion at the bank. Mama Bisi never apologized. She simply moved on to the next story, as though nothing had happened. There was also the well-known wedding scandal involving a man named Chuka, where Mama Bisi swore, hand on her chest, that the groom already had another wife hidden away in another city. The whole compound contributed less generously to the couple's wedding gift that year, based on that single unverified claim. 3 months later, everyone discovered the truth. Mama Bisi had confused the groom with his cousin who shared the exact same name. She simply shrugged and said, "A common name can confuse anybody. It's not my fault."
Over time, the compound had developed an unofficial rating system for Mama Bisi's stories. Confirmed news meant she had seen it with her own eyes. Half news meant she had heard it from someone reliable. And special edition, the most dangerous category of all, meant she had heard 3 unrelated rumors, mixed them together overnight, and produced something entirely new by morning. Despite all this, no one could deny that life in Adeyemi Villa was never boring with Mama Bisi around. She remembered everyone's birthday, mostly because it gave her an excuse to visit and confirm information while pretending to bring a small gift of food. She knew which child was struggling in school, which couple was quietly fighting, and which tenant secretly owed the local provision store. Some people resented her for it. Many people, if they were honest, quietly enjoyed the entertainment she provided, the way people enjoy a soap opera, even while complaining about how ridiculous it is. Now, before we go further, let's talk about her own household, because you cannot fully understand this story without understanding the home Mama Bisi ran. Her husband, Baba Bisi, was a quiet man, the complete opposite of her wife. He worked as a driver for a small transport company, moving goods between Lagos and Ibadan. He was the kind of man who greeted everyone politely, kept his head down, and slipped quietly into their flat whenever his wife began broadcasting outside. Their only son, Junior, was 22, currently doing what many young people in Lagos were doing, hustling in small ways, running errands on a motorbike on weekends, and dreaming bigger dreams that hadn't quite landed yet. Mama Bisi's flat looked on the surface like an ordinary 2-bedroom apartment, no different from any other flat in the compound. But behind that door was a secret she guarded more fiercely than a lioness guards her cub. A secret she had never once mentioned under the mango tree, not even by accident. Because for 2 solid years, Baba Bisi had been quietly repaying a debt. Not just any debt, a debt owed to a man named Chief Dagogo, a stern, wealthy contractor who lived in the largest flat in the compound, Flat 1, the one with the generator that never disturbed anybody because it was too expensive to run carelessly. Chief Dagogo had lent Baba Bisi a significant amount of money 3 years earlier when Junior needed emergency surgery after an accident. It had saved their son's life. But the debt had grown heavy over time. Repayment had slowed, and Baba Bisi, ashamed, had begged Chief Dagogo to keep the matter private. "Please, Chief," Baba Bisi said that day, his voice unsteady. "Please don't let my wife hear about this. If she hears, she will carry it around and tell the whole of Lagos. It's not that I don't want to pay you back. I'm managing it slowly." Chief Dagogo, a man of principle, had kept his word. No one in the compound knew. Not Auntie Comfort, not Sister Nkem, not even the landlord's agent.
No one, that is, except Mama Bisi's own worst nightmare, waiting quietly in the wings, because secrets in a Lagos compound have a strange way of eventually finding the loudest mouth. If you're already sensing that something is about to come straight back to Mama Bisi's own doorstep, hold that thought, because we're only getting started and this compound still has plenty of drama left. Make sure you've hit that subscribe button, because the middle of this story is where things get properly interesting. It was 2 weeks to the compound's annual end-of-year party, an event Mama Bisi treated like her personal awards night. Every year, the 6 flats in Adeyemi Villa contributed money, hired a small canopy, ordered jollof rice by the basin, and celebrated surviving another year of Lagos life together. And every year, without fail, Mama Bisi found a way to make the party about somebody's private business. The previous year, she had announced in the middle of the dancing that a certain tenant's flashy lifestyle was funded by loans he could not repay. The year before that, she revealed that a woman's engagement was fake, arranged only to please a dying grandmother. Mama Bisi lived for these moments. She privately called them her State of the Union address. This year, she had bigger plans. It started with a small observation. Mama Bisi noticed that Chief Dagogo, the wealthy tenant of Flat 1, had begun behaving strangely. He was making calls in a hushed tone from his balcony at night. He had visited the immigration office downtown. She knew this because her cousin's neighbor's daughter worked as a cleaner there and mentioned seeing a big man from Adeyemi Villa filling out forms. And most suspicious of all, Chief Dagogo had started quietly selling off some of his furniture. Mama Bisi's instincts went on high alert immediately. "Comfort," she said one evening, practically vibrating with excitement. "I've picked up on something big." "What's the big something?" Auntie Comfort asked, already reaching for her fan because she knew this was going to be a long conversation. "I think Chief Dagogo is planning to leave the country quietly, without telling anyone in this compound. Imagine if the man just vanished overnight. People will be asking, 'Where is Chief Dagogo?' and I would be the only one with the answer." "That's not a small matter, Mama Bisi. If it's true, it will shake this whole place. That's why I've been gathering evidence little by little," Mama Bisi said, tapping the side of her head like a detective in a television drama. "On the day of the party, I'll share the news with everyone. Let them hear it properly. That will be my grand finale for this year." For the next 2 weeks, Mama Bisi turned herself into a full-time investigator. She started greeting Chief Dagogo with unusual sweetness, complimenting his shirt, asking about his health, all while her eyes scanned his balcony for more missing furniture. She sent Junior on a harmless errand past Flat 1, just so he could glance through the window and report what furniture was gone. She even cornered the cleaner from the immigration office, the one her cousin's neighbor's daughter knew, and questioned her over a plate of rice and stew, the way a journalist might interview a source, except this journalist was paying in food instead of cash. Every new detail she gathered, she added to what she privately called in her own head the file. She never actually wrote anything down. Mama Bisi's memory was her filing cabinet, and it never lost a single document. By the time the party was 1 week away, she believed she had built an airtight case. Chief Dagogo was leaving the country quietly, without a word to his neighbors, and Mama Bisi intended to be the one who announced it before he could slip away unnoticed. She rehearsed the announcement in her bathroom mirror the way some people rehearse a wedding speech. She practiced the pause before the big reveal. She practiced her tone, serious, but with just enough drama to hold everyone's attention. "My people," she would whisper to her own reflection, "I regret to inform you," and then she would stop, satisfied, nodding at herself like a woman preparing for the performance of her career. Baba Bisi, watching his wife's sudden burst of energy that week, could only sigh and shake his head. "This woman never rests," he muttered to himself one evening, with no idea that the very storm his wife was preparing to unleash on someone else's household was about to blow straight back into his own living room. What Mama Bisi did not know, what she could not have known since Chief Dagogo was far too dignified to discuss his private finances with anyone outside his own household, was the real reason he was preparing to travel quietly. It wasn't the excitement of relocating abroad that people usually imagine. Chief Dagogo's business had hit a difficult patch that year. 2 major contracts had fallen through. Over the years, he had lent money to different people, trusting them to repay when he needed it most, and now he was quietly calling in those debts, without drama, without embarrassing anyone, because that was simply the kind of man he was. He was arranging to relocate temporarily to Port Harcourt, where a new opportunity awaited him, and he needed every outstanding debt settled before he left, including the one Baba Bisi still owed him. He had not yet told Baba Bisi that he needed the remaining balance paid before the end of the month. He was waiting for the right moment, quietly and respectfully, the same way he had handled the entire matter from the beginning. Neither man knew that Mama Bisi's spotlight was about to swing directly onto both of their heads at the same time, in front of the entire compound with jollof rice in hand and music playing in the background. The day of the party arrived, wrapped in the kind of Lagos heat that has everyone sweating through their outfits by 3 in the afternoon. The canopy was mounted, chairs were arranged in a circle, speakers played music while children ran around chasing each other with paper plates. Auntie Comfort had done her hair specially for the occasion. Sister Nkem, whose husband's hotel scandal had, thankfully, turned out to be a case of mistaken identity, it was actually his identical twin brother, a fact Mama Bisi had conveniently never bothered to correct or apologize for, sat quietly by the food table, still watching Mama Bisi from a distance. Junior, Mama Bisi's son, moved between guests carrying trays of snacks, smiling politely, unaware that his own father's secret was hanging in the compound air like an unlit firework. By 5 in the evening, the music paused for the traditional compound remarks, a segment where the landlord's representative would speak, followed by community updates, followed, inevitably, by whatever Mama Bisi had prepared for her annual grand finale. Mama Bisi stood up, adjusted her head wrap until it sat like a crown on her head, and cleared her throat with the seriousness of a woman about to deliver an important announcement. "My people," she began, and the whole canopy went quiet because everyone recognized that tone. "I don't like to gossip. You all know me. I simply like to inform." A few people chuckled. Nobody believed that line, not even the children. But as your community secretary, I have information that concerns all of us. Chief Dagogo, seated near the front in his usual quiet dignity, sipped his drink, unaware that the spotlight was about to swing onto him. "Some of you may have noticed strange things happening in Flat 1, Mama Bisi continued, building suspense the way a soap opera does right before a commercial break. "Furniture keeps disappearing. He's been making secret calls at night. He's been visiting the immigration office. My people, I regret to inform you that Chief Dagogo is planning to leave this country quietly, without a proper send-off, without informing his neighbors, as though we don't matter to him at all." Gasps rippled around the canopy. Auntie Comfort's plastic fork slipped from her hand. Somewhere, the music dipped low, as though even the DJ sensed the tension building. Chief Dagogo set his drink down slowly, his face unreadable. "Mama Bisi," he said calmly, "are you certain that's the whole story?" "I have my sources, Chief. Can you deny it to my face?" There was a long, heavy pause. The kind of pause where even the DJ forgot to bring the music back in. Then Chief Dagogo did something nobody expected. He didn't shout, he didn't deny it. He simply nodded slowly, stood up with the calm authority of a man who had nothing left to hide, and said, "Since Mama Bisi has already opened this conversation for everyone, let me add a small piece of information she left out." The crowd leaned forward as one. "Yes, I am planning to travel for business reasons, nothing dramatic. But since Mama Bisi values transparency so much, let me use this opportunity to settle something before I go." He turned slowly, and his eyes landed not on a stranger, not on some distant figure, but directly on Baba Bisi, who was standing quietly near the drinks table, holding a plastic cup, wishing the ground would open and swallow him whole. "Baba Bisi," Chief Dagogo said gently, "forgive me, but since your wife enjoys informing the whole compound about other people's business, I think this is the right moment to remind you that we still have a small balance to settle. That loan I gave you 3 years ago, when Junior was sick, do you remember?" The canopy went completely silent. Somewhere, a tray of snacks hit the ground with a soft clatter. Mama Bisi's smile froze on her face as though someone had pressed pause on her show. "A loan?" Auntie Comfort repeated, turning slowly toward Mama Bisi. "What loan is this, Mama Bisi? You never told any of us that your husband owed anyone money." Mama Bisi opened her mouth, but for the first time in the recorded history of Adeyemi Villa, no words came out. Junior, standing frozen with a tray of snacks in his hands, looked at his father, confused. "Dad, is this the money for my operation? You never told me we still owed him." Baba Bisi, red-faced, finally cleared his throat and spoke, quietly but clearly, the way a man speaks when he has carried something heavy for too long. "Chief Dagogo, I've been paying it back little by little. I haven't finished, but I never forgot. I simply didn't want my wife to hear about it because," he hesitated, glancing at Mama Bisi, "because I knew she would carry it around and tell the whole world. It was the shame I was trying to avoid, not the debt itself." The whole compound turned, almost in slow motion, to look at Mama Bisi, the same woman who minutes ago had stood proudly announcing someone else's private business to the entire party, the same woman who had built her entire reputation exposing secrets, the same woman who had never once mentioned that her own household was carrying a debt heavier than anything she had ever shared under that mango tree. For the first time in years, Mama Bisi had nothing to say. Auntie Comfort, who had spent countless mornings nodding along to every single one of Mama Bisi's stories, finally leaned back in her chair, folded her arms, and said the line that would be repeated in that compound for years to come. "Didn't you say you don't gossip, that you simply provide community updates? Please, update us properly now. What's the balance?" Laughter, real, uncontrollable laughter that shook the whole canopy, followed immediately. Children who didn't even understand what was happening laughed simply because the adults were laughing. Sister Nkem, who had waited 2 years for this exact moment, laughed so hard she had to hold on to the table. Even the DJ, unable to resist, dropped a comedic sound effect over the speakers, the kind you hear when someone slips on a banana peel in a film. Mama Bisi stood there, head wrap slightly tilted from the shock, holding a cup of juice she had completely forgotten she was drinking, watching her own kingdom of gossip collapse under the weight of the one story she had never bothered to tell, her own. She didn't shout, she didn't storm off, she simply sat down slowly and quietly in what might have been the first time anyone in that compound had ever seen Mama Bisi choose silence over commentary. And in that silence, something shifted. Chief Dagogo, seeing the woman properly humbled, softened his tone. "Don't take it too hard, Mama Bisi," he said, not unkindly. "Nobody is perfect. I only wanted to show you that what you do to other people can reach your own doorstep one day too. Let's settle it quietly, the way I've handled it for you all these years." Baba Bisi, standing beside his wife now, placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, not in triumph, but almost in relief, like a man finally setting down a bag he had carried for too long. Mama Bisi looked up at him, then around at the compound she had ruled with her tongue for years, and for the first time she understood something she had never truly grasped before, that every piece of gossip she had ever thrown out into that compound had landed somewhere, on somebody, the same way this one had just landed on her. The party continued after that. Lagos parties don't stop for anybody's embarrassment, but something in Mama Bisi had visibly deflated, like a balloon finally accepting it wasn't going to fly forever. Over the following weeks, the mango tree beside the compound tap stood strangely quiet in the mornings. Mama Bisi still came out to fetch water, still greeted her neighbors, but the plastic stool that once held court every single morning sat empty more often than not. She hadn't stopped talking entirely. That would be asking a leopard to change its spots overnight. But something in her had changed. When Auntie Comfort brought her a juicy piece of news about another tenant a month later, Mama Bisi, to everyone's shock, simply said, "That one doesn't concern me. Let the person face their own life. A person living in a glass house shouldn't throw stones." Auntie Comfort nearly fainted from shock. She actually reached for her fan and used it to cool herself off, the way people do when they hear news too surprising to process while standing still. The Mama Bisi I know has relocated to where exactly? Word of Mama Bisi's transformation spread through the compound faster than any of her old stories ever had, which everyone found deeply, deeply ironic. Sister Nkem, who had been wrongly accused of having a cheating husband, walked up to Mama Bisi one afternoon and said with a small satisfied smile, "Mama Bisi, I never thought I would see this day. May God continue to keep you humble." Mama Bisi simply nodded and continued sweeping her doorstep, refusing to take the bait even when it was practically served to her on a plate. Junior, for his part, found the whole thing funny in a way only a 22-year-old could. He took to occasionally teasing his mother at dinner, saying things like, "Mom, you used to be like an undercover agent and now you've turned into an ambassador." And Mama Bisi would simply wave him off and tell him to eat his food, though the corner of her mouth would twitch with something suspiciously close to a smile. Baba Bisi cleared the remaining balance with Chief Dagogo 3 months later, in full, with a quiet dignity that Mama Bisi for once did not broadcast to anyone. In fact, she was the one who now warned Junior, "Don't tell anyone in this compound. Some things should stay inside the house." The irony was not lost on anyone, least of all Mama Bisi herself. By the time the next end-of-year party came around, the compound gathered again under the same canopy with the same jollof rice, the same music, but with one small, noticeable difference. When it was time for community updates, Mama Bisi stood up, looked around at the familiar faces who had once laughed at her, and simply said, "My people, I have nothing to report this year. Everyone, please face your plates. Enjoy the rice." The compound erupted into applause, not because the update was exciting, but because everyone understood exactly what that silence meant. So, here is the real question this story leaves behind. How many of us are out here holding microphones to other people's business, forgetting that we too are standing in glass houses with our own secrets stacked quietly behind the curtains? Mama Bisi learned it the hard way, in front of a whole canopy of jollof rice and music. Maybe it's better to learn it before the compound gathers for you. If this story made you laugh, made you think of your own Mama Bisi back home, or made you glance sideways at someone in your family group chat, drop a comment and tell us who they are. No names, just vibes. And if you want more stories like this one, full of drama, comedy, and a little bit of karma, make sure you're subscribed because Adeyemi Villa still has plenty of stories left to share.